I pray istikhara, I want a sign that this is the right thing. Like, what are the signs in the heavens, right? I have to go and follow, whether I'm a cancer or whatever it is. Like, we want all of these signs. Yet for the believer, the signs are everywhere. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, in the very creation of the heavens and the earth, وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, and the changing between night and day are signs, but not for everybody, only for very specific people. لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ, for the people of thought. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges us over and over and over again in the Quran to be a people of thought. أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ, are you not a people of understanding? أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, are you not a people of thinking? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ, are you not a people of pondering? And because you know what? When you sit down and you think, you realize هَذَا خَلْقُ اللَّهِ, this is the creation of Allah. فَأَرُونِي, so show me مَاذَا خَلَقَ الَّذِينَ مِن دُونِي. Atheism does not exist for the person who thinks. Yet everything in our life today and everything that we are facing is pushing you to not think. When you're watching TikTok, like literally the name of it is TikTok, and you're watching it for 2, 4, 6, 8 hours a day, you're not thinking during that time. You're only receiving information, which, excuse my language, but it's honestly garbage. You're receiving this terrible information, one after the other. Sometimes, like how many people do we know, even ourselves, we say, I can't study without music. I can't walk down the street without having these huge headphones on. Because God forbid, I take a moment and I think. And wallahi, right now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not do anything for a lack of a reason. And Allah did not create us for a lack of a reason. So you have to sit here right now and really ask, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala putting me in this position right now? Why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not just for you guys, for me as well, and for Shaykh Ismail, and for Shaykh Al-Danani, and everyone. Why is Allah, everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does is for a purpose, and the believer is sitting here thinking, what is the purpose? What is the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put me in this situation right now? I want to ask you, this moment, Allah, is very scary. You know why? Because how are we going to respond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He says, I gave you a Ramadan, and I gave you a sign? Like, it's one thing, wallahi, I'll say for myself this year, been to so many gNazas, so many of the people, I'd say more than half of the people we buried in this last year were younger than me and not older than me. This is the nature of life. Shaykh Al-Danani, he said something a few years ago, I'll never forget. He says, more people die young than people who die old. More people die young than people who die old. And every one of us, we know the ayat, right? We know, if I ask any person in this room, well, can you die tomorrow? Everybody will say yes. We're not an ignorant people. But do we really feel that in our heart? And do we act like that? So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings us on the Day of Judgment, He says, I gave you this blessed month. This is not a normal Ramadan. Wallahi, this is not a normal Ramadan. With everything happening in Gaza, this is not a normal Ramadan. This is a Ramadan where you have to go harder than you've ever went in your life. Where you have to make dua. Again, Shaykh Al-Danani said it in the Khatira in October. He says, when you're in the car, you make dua for Gaza. When you're driving, you make dua for Gaza. When you're sitting, you make dua for them. When you're standing, you make dua for them. When you're walking, you make dua for them. And now we have to make collective dua. For our forgiveness, for the people of Gaza, for our brother Ahmed, for ourselves. This is the time. So when you stand in front of Allah on the Day of Judgment, and He says, I gave you Ramadan, and I gave you this sign, someone your age or younger than you passing away suddenly, and then you left this month of Ramadan, and you still didn't pray, and you still didn't read Quran, and you still cursed, and you're still disrespectful to your parents, right? And you still have no connection with Allah. How are you going to respond? How are you going to respond? I'll tell you something. This is not, not to sound callous, this is not the first time we've been through this, right? And everybody gets emotional, and everybody says, I want to change, but then we fall again for this dunya, for this world. Allah, He asks the question, and I'll conclude shortly, but Allah, He asks the question, He says, Ya ayyuhal insan, O human, ما غرك بربك الكريم. What is it that has deluded you from your most gracious Lord? When it's your day, and wallahi, everybody has a day. Everybody will have a day when the lectures are about them, when the dua is for them. When it's your day, ask yourself, what will it be? What will I say to Allah that has deluded me from Allah? What will I say to Allah? Right? I missed out on an eternity of paradise. Why? Because, I just couldn't stop talking to the girls. It's so hard to wake up for Fajr. I guarantee you, when you go to Six Flags in the summer, you're up at 5 a.m., right, to make sure you catch the whole day. Right? If you have an exam, you're up in the morning to make sure you take that exam seriously. But then when it comes time for Fajr, I'm too tired. Well, you guys know better than me. Everything is a mindset. Everything. If you want to be wealthy, it's a mindset. If you want to be strong, it's a mindset. If you want to be a true man, or for the sisters, a true woman, it's a mindset that you have to go after. And if you want to be a true believer, it has to be a mindset. It has to be a mindset. You know what? I don't want to wake up for Fajr. I'm going to force myself to wake up for Fajr. It's so hard to read the Quran. I don't care. Go ahead and force yourself to read the Quran. SubhanAllah, when we want something, we go after it. We really go after it. Like, we're willing, if you want to become a doctor, to take 12, 15, 20 years of your life to achieve this goal, and it's a good goal. Right, but when we want to get closer to Allah, we say, I'm too tired after reading a few pages. It's not. There's no such thing as having a feeling. I have a feeling and then I become a better Muslim. No. The only way to become a better Muslim is to put in the effort. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا, the ones who strive in our cause, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا, they are the ones who we will guide. Look at the correlation here. The ones who strive in our cause, they are the ones who we will guide. Right? It's not the guided ones. Like, nobody wakes up one day and their heart is filled with iman and faith, and then they say, today's going to be the day where I go and start praying. No, go and force yourself to pray. Because again, wallahi, one day the lectures will be about you, and one day the lectures will be about me, and one day, it could be tomorrow, it could be the day after, it could be in a few years, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. People are going to say, today we're praying for Brother Munir. They remember when he used to give those lectures about death. We're praying for this sheikh or that sheikh. You remember when he used to teach us about these moments, right? But take heed. Take heed, and you know what? I'll say this, and I'll be very blunt. A lot of you will leave this moment and you will be the same person you were before. Wallahi, those are the losers. And a lot of you will leave this moment a better Muslim. Whatever it is, like whatever your basal connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now, some of you will take heed and leave this better, and those are the ones who are truly successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not care about the fruit of your efforts. Allah, He cares about the effort itself. I'll never forget, I'll just share a final story. When Ahmed Ghazali, I was going once a week, and we were the other thing I speak about is heaven, hell, death, and marriage, for whatever reason. I don't know the correlation between them. But I was going, and I remember, and he was paying attention, right? And it made me think that this young brother, right, he had an idea, he had a hope. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had a better plan for him. One thing that's important to realize in this situation, and it's something I heard earlier today, people say, only the good die young, right? Like these silly things. This is not true. This is not true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted him to pass away in this specific time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And sometimes you have to realize that your human imagination is limited, and Allah knows and you do not know. So put your trust in Allah that you might not understand, but this was the best thing. So dear brothers, take heed for wallahi, every one of us will be asked about this moment. Every one of us will stand in front of Allah, and the books will be opened, and the scales will be weighed. And this moment will either be on your scale of good, or it can very easily be on the scale of evil. And this moment can be a testimony against you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us a people of change. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our sins. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on our beloved brother Ahmed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring him to the highest levels of paradise. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to unite him with the prophets and messengers that came before us. Jazakumullah khair. And I will pass it off to our beloved Shaykh.